Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've been doing some craft videos here on the channel, but I have been doing a lot of sewing projects. I have a lot of footage, most of it log style, kind of messy. I have to sort through everything. A lot of it's haphazard. I probably look a little crazy in a lot of it. Big shocker. Some days I just don't feel very camera ready and I actually shoot around myself somehow. Can't do that today though. No cheating today. Since I've been doing so much sewing this year, I did want to take some time out and talk about some sewing tips that I actually have as just a fun amateur who loves talking about sewing and sharing creative ideas. I've actually written a Sewing on a Budget tips article at Search Magazine, so I'll link some of that information below as well. And I wanted to talk a little more, just elaborate upon that because I've been doing a lot more projects the past few years, and pandemic comes along and a lot of people are trapped inside looking to do some hobbies again or looking for ways to save money and think that maybe sewing is a resource, or more than likely I think a lot of people get scared, which is a strange thing to say. I've had some folks comment that well, it's inspiring, they like looking at pictures, or, oh, wow, that's neat that you could do that, but I could never do that. And I feel the opposite. I think, yes, you can do that. No matter what station, no matter where you are, no matter what your goals are, or what your skill level is, I think that you can get into sewing affordably. It can happen, believe it or not. Yes. So, number one, freebies, freebies, freebies. I'm sure you all probably recognize what this is. Huh? We all have little old ladies, grandmas, crazy eccentric aunts like me who sew, or know someone who sewed or had a craft room or is working on something that they're not working on anymore, or has some old curtains or sheets or materials that they're not using. Don't be afraid to ask. That's probably the biggest thing that you can do, is let somebody know that you're interested in sewing, and you'll take anything and everything that they have to offer. Perfectly okay. It's not cheap. It's not poor. It's not begging. You're not being, sad or pathetic or anything. No, absolutely not. Especially in this day and age. Even if you don't know somebody, there are all kinds of different sewing groups online, or even things like the goofy Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, where somebody could be clearing out homes and could be having lots, literal L-O-T, lot blocks of sewing merchandise. So why not? Don't be afraid. It's a great place if you're brand new to start. Accept everything. Even if you don't know what half of the stuff is yet, it's just accumulated tools. It's somewhere to start. A lot of little old ladies probably still have sewing books too, which is, I guess, maybe a thing of the past today when we could just look up any information online. Online resources are free as well. I get the impression that people feel like they have to have everything in place first. And you don't have to do that. You can start small. You can start with somebody's old sheets and old curtains or tablecloths or something, and just cut it up and make something new out of it. You don't have to have some elaborate, grandiose room and everything already and perfect in place with elaborate bolts and rolls and everything perfect. It's okay to start out crappy, because guess what? Everything that starts out is going to start out crappy because you have no experience, and that's okay. Thrifting is a great place to start for low-budget things. Again, a lot of times, sewing materials are there. I mean, they already have a lot of sections of curtains and tablecloths, or if you're looking to just start by practicing with clothing that's maybe a little too big, how can you change it up? Things like that. The materials secondhand is already a great resource, but then they also, some stores have entire craft sections where, of course, again, Dearly Departed has donated a lot of stuff. I have gotten, you've seen, if you have watched, I have a whole playlist of some thrift hauls that I've done where I have gotten fabric by the bolt and fabric rolls and giant things, huge massive things of thread that I will never finish. They're so huge I will never finish them in my lifetime. Giant jars of buttons, patterns. I have never paid, I think twice maybe, when they had simplicity big brand sales that 99-cent blowouts did I buy commercial patterns once. Otherwise, every pattern that I have has been a thrift find. And again, people maybe feel the need that they have to rush to the craft store and get seam rippers and zippers and notions. What is notions? They feel like they have to run up to the store and go buy everything. And again, I have not bought new notions at the craft store, and I can't tell you how long. And I've been kind of an amateur shower off on longer than I probably should admit. You know, and again, a lot of that is waste of money. Things that you feel that you have to buy just because they're there, even though you're never going to use them. You know, even something like a sewing machine. I've seen sewing machines in the thrift shops. That's something that sometimes people feel like they need to have. And, you know, when you're starting out, you don't even need to have a sewing machine. Again, a freebie, you can ask somebody, hey, if you're not using your sewing machine, can I borrow it? I want to practice something, you know. But the sewing machine can be a big expense. You don't have to rush out for some kind of fancy computerized press a button, digital screen kind of $200-300 sewing machine, $200-300 dress form. You don't need to buy any of that. At the thrift store, you can buy something for a couple dollars. You can practice. It's something new to work with. You know, a curtain and some ribbons and, you know, a stash of thread with some needles and some buttons. And you can practice on making some pillows. And for a few dollars, it's guilt-free. As opposed to if you go out and buy all kinds of stuff and then it kind of sits there, or you don't know what to do with it, then you feel guilty because then it does become a waste because it is something that's not being used, but it's been money that's spent. Organization. I think organization is very key. And some of those thrift hauls, in fact, if you've watched some of those videos, I've made the mistake of buying a lot of the little paper kind of fall craft kind of leaves at one dollar store or another dollar store, or I had a craft store gift card and I came back with a bunch of clearance leaves. And then when I looked in my craft drawers, I saw that, geez, I already had a bunch of leaves, which I actually just used them in a fall project, so I didn't feel so bad, but it was the idea that knowing what you have also means that you're not going to double spend on things. And when I lived in a smaller place, I had one kind of little mobile station, little cart kind of thing, that had my sewing machine and my jewelry supplies, and I had one trunk that had my sewing machine and fabrics. So I couldn't buy and couldn't go spend and couldn't hoard things and let things pile up. When I needed to do a project, I went and got the materials that I needed, and I had to finish it, and everything had to be put away again because there was simply no space. So you can't, again, waste money rushing out and buying things without considering where your setup is going to be or what kind of purpose area you're going to need. You know, if you have something that where there's pets and kids, maybe you do need a little station that has something with doors or drawers where things can be shut up and put away. Is there something like your laundry room? Does it have space where something that's an area that's not being utilized, where maybe you could put up some shelving for some of your storage or have some kind of fold-out kind of table? They make specific sewing organization craft kind of storage things, but again, they cost a lot of money. And where are you going to put something like that if that's a huge expense? You know, I'm fortunate now that I'm in my basement where I have space to spread out. But I keep all of my supplies in plastic drawer bins where I can see what I have, where everything is labeled and organized. So then when I do go to the thrift store, when I'm not supposed to, but I go anyway, and I see some fabric, I say, gee, you know, maybe I don't need another red tablecloth because I've already got like 3 drawers of red material that I need to use. So being organized helps you from double dipping, double spending, and not buying things you don't need, which I realize is kind of a little contradictory to how I said when somebody's giving you for something for free, take it. By all means, take it. But when you begin to buy, you have to be realistic about why you're buying that material. Are you actually going to make this project? Is this going to be something that is going to be big and elaborate, that needs to be laid out? Or is this something that small and fun that can be tucked away or doesn't have to be perfect? Because you do have to consider your area. But I do think it is important, if you want to have a creative space, to find a little niche, some little pocket of your home that works for you. In my basement, I do have a lock on the door that I can keep the cats out, even though there is a cat circling around here right now. All of these tips that I have sort of kind of build up on each other, because I also think that your goals are very important for what you want in sewing. It's great, excellent to start out if somebody gives you some old curtains, or if you buy a thrift tablecloth. It's an excellent place to start. But you can't expect to be sewing a prom gown or a wedding dress out of found fabric, and you can't expect it to happen overnight. Sewing is a cumulative kind of hobby. The more you do it, the more you learn. And I guess your goals also have to fit your space. If you don't have a lot of room to spread out, then you shouldn't be working on, yes, something that is really huge and elaborate, that is time consuming, something that needs to be laid out. So it's okay to start small with your goals. Pillows, costumes, making your own curtains, just simply putting a fabric that you like and, you know, hemming it up and putting it up on the window. And if you have a huge space where it's okay to be great and spread out, you maybe, if you're brand new, you still shouldn't go buy the really beautiful, elaborate, fancy, luxurious fabrics, $40, $50, $100 a yard, that are just going to sit there and everything be difficult and get messed up, because guess what? You still don't know what you're doing if you're brand new. So buying that fabric now is still kind of a waste, because you're not ready for that yet. And you have to be realistic if you're working with old fabrics or today's, you know, poly-fake kind of fiber materials. Some of them can fray and be difficult and cause problems. And some things like the fake little satins and cheapy kind of silk imitations are really flimsy. They're really difficult to get through a machine. So that's where a lot of knowledge comes into it. And you can balance your what you know versus what you don't know, and how much money you have to spend with online opportunities. As I said, there's sometimes a lot of free information. There's a lot of people that have much more elaborate expertise and get into real excellent detail on YouTube. But then there are also different types of paid courses or classes and programs to take as well. So you can get out the old-fashioned pen and paper, make a Pinterest board, whatever works for you, snap in some pictures of ideas and organizations, and be realistic about where you can set up, what you want to make, how long you expect projects to take, and how much money you have to spend on them. And I do think that if you get your freebies, if you shop sensibly, if you're realistic about how you can set things up and how long it's going to take you to sew, that it can be budgeted and that it can work. It doesn't matter if the seams are finished. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I think your own time and money and resources and know-how is what's important in sewing on a budget, and not what you think other people are going to think about your sewing, because, well, too damn bad. It's none of their business. And if anything, it's more exciting just the idea when somebody says, oh, you made that? Wow, I could not make that. I think we tend to think that everyone is going to nitpick at what we're doing. I know I feel that way. I feel that way because of my white balance on my camera, that I feel like I'm already doing something wrong. But I can't worry about that anymore. I'm not going to go out and get a tan anytime soon, so too bad. But when I make something that's really crazy and really zany and fun, I do think, you know, that is unique. That is one of a kind, and that is what makes it special. And that is a goal that is worth striving to meet. But I have also written, as I said, about some more sewing on I have written sewing on a budget tips for Search magazine in their homemade fall issue. You will find that link below. I've written a few things for them as well, some new things that are coming up. And you can watch some of the videos that I've already done about some thrifting and sewing fun and easy projects. I'm not exactly a really great instructor. I more show how I do things, and maybe that gives people the light bulb to go try it themselves or go look up the proper information. You know, I've been doing some zany pattern drafting where I've just been practicing on some scrap paper because why not? You know? Math does come into it, but I'm not a mathematician either. But to me, I don't think it's trial and error. I think that's why they're called mock-ups for a reason. So it's really great to start practicing with some junk materials, some junk fabric, laying things out and just seeing what happens and just go for it. I've been rambling quite a bit, as I said, but I do want to put my mouth where my money is, and I want to give everybody an updated tour because I'm sitting now in the more fancy side of my, I don't know, quote, basement studio, which I redid during the pandemic. If you saw some of those videos, I did a whole series about how I moved down into the basement to spread out because I needed a guest room. This is sort of the ugly side of my basement over here, and I kind of work in the back in this side, and it's great for me. I could see how it could be kind of difficult for other people. Now, I don't actually often show this side of my setup. This is where my basement stairs. I do want to show this cute little printer cart, actually. This was my husband's from his parents' house many, many years ago. I had my electronics in other places, and I kind of pulled everything together because this is on wheels, and I can put it up here to my cozy chair. I can wheel it over to the table with my exercise ball when I need to get something else done. So I love that it's multi-purpose. When we were in our condo, my sewing machine was on this with my jewelry supplies underneath. Is it pretty? Maybe not necessarily. Is it ideal? Perhaps not, but it is what currently works. It was free. And you know, I'm kind of particular. I don't like I don't like showing necessarily the messy side of things, my tea, my plate, but I took off my socks. Yeah, Golden Girl socks, deal with it. But you know, I have had a few comments when I'm doing some of these videos that people say they just like to see the results, or you know, see the idea and that's it. But I don't want people to be afraid of if you have a small area or think that something is really expensive, because it's not. And there's a crazy cat under there somewhere. Step into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. Yeah, speaking of, this desk, again, was something I had in my parents' house. Of course, I have a couple nice clothes that probably should be on a nice hanging rod down here. But, you know, when you want to throw on a nice shirt for a Zoom, I, of course, just have them tossed over the chair. And I like the roll-top desk, as I've said before, so that way I can close the lid from all the cats. But I've got so much crap on there that currently the roll-top desk won't shut. Don't let the cat know that right now. I used to have some electronics here, actually, on top of this little, I've always called it a shadow box. This is where I actually used to keep my records in my parents' house, but now it's sort of my assorted kind of book file, and old writing materials, and pattern books, and writing books. I moved all my electronics, as I said, so that way this could sort of be the kind of prep area to try and keep some of the messy painting supplies from some of the sewing material. But it's kind of become a little bit of a catch-all kind of side table, just like my lovely work table here. Under here, I had some of these tote bins stacked up with some wood from an old TV stand store-bought disassembled, where I just had the big pieces of boards sitting on top of the tote bins as some kind of rocky little table surface. But this table, a dining room table, was actually left in the house here when we moved. It has a little pedestal, a pedestal leg, woo, with some cobwebs, yet again. I found the eave that goes with this in our garage, and I put the whole table together here downstairs. Free table work surface. Yay! So I have my sewing machine, and that pile there is in progress sewing materials. The problem with having a proper work table surface is that everything gets dumped on the table. My point here in showing some of my ugly stuff here is that, you know, it takes work to maintain a space. And I didn't go out and spend a lot of any money for these workhorse pieces of furniture, but I have to keep them organized. So somehow all this stuff here has to fit in my plastic bins, which again, some of these I had from my parents' house. I think I did buy 2 of them for more storage to when I moved everything here to make it even. But I label and keep things organized, but not everything fits. So that's where some of the overflow large things are in the tote bins underneath the table. This was some fabric my mother found at a yard sale. You know, again, one of my tips, you know, freebies, ask around. Let people know that you're looking for material, that you're looking for sewing notions, and ask and, you know, it shall be answered. Lighting! Lighting is an issue. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh. This is exactly what I mean about making sure that you have the space that works for you. Being in the basement is great. I will let's get the cons of the basement out of the way. I do have to work around a lot of logistics. One obviously is lighting. There's big fluorescent lights down here. I have different task lamps. I have been adding LED type of lighting actually to the bottoms, my floor joists in my ceiling here in the basement, because I need more task lighting. And sometimes the fluorescent lighting, as you can tell, is very, very harsh. Even when I'm actually working on projects, sometimes it's actually harsh light. There's no diffusers on the fluorescent lights. So that's something that, again, I have to look into. Is that worth investing in? Can I kind of do some film under there? Can I drape things underneath without heat issues? I don't know. So I've been more working with getting these $25 LED light strips. I've shown some of these in some of my thrift videos where basically where it's been dark, I've just been trying to make light. There are 2 window wells on the other side of the basement, but not on my side of the basement. So I don't have natural light here. And for me, the lighting is primarily for the tasks, for getting the projects done. Filming lighting to me has become secondary because I don't really have any more space for big extra giant light boxes and things. Because I'm in one half of the basement and the other half is the exercise kind of part, and then I'm kind of cut in half by all kinds of equipment. So I would be taking less room for craft space that I need if I had big other film lighting. So, and again, is that worth investing in that or not? Again, you have to weigh those kind of pros and cons. And another negative of being in the basement is, again, a lot of that equipment, knock on wood, it's off right now, that it's not making any kind of noises, but there's all kinds of heating and units and water filtration things that go off. Anytime there's, you know, the dishwasher or other plumbing that happens upstairs, I have to hear it downstairs. These ducts were in the way, and they were uninsulated. I had to insulate them. And they still kind of drip a little. There's some wonderful condensation when it is super hot outside, but it's actually really kind of cold in my basement. I do have a heater. I do have to wear, like, multiple clothes, layers of clothing when I'm down here. Even my mother says, I'm surprised you have a heater because, you know, I'm usually so cold-blooded. But when I have condensation going, I also have to have a dehumidifier over here running. So I have to work around a lot of that equipment. And when I first came down here, I realized, okay, I'm cheap. I make a lot of things out of trash. My cardboard tombstones are all kind of actually lined up over here, sort of sorted, kind of decorative in their own way, to kind of make a wall by the stairwell, actually. And when I came down here, I knew, gee, painted cardboard, I could not put anywhere where there was going to be a moisture issue. Also have my lovely little pole that's right here that I try to decorate so that I don't bump into it, but you know what? I still bump into it. And when I do bump into it, you know, I also have to double check if I'm actually hitting one of these little leaves or if I'm walking into a spider web. And if you've seen some of my Halloween sewing videos from last year, you know, I have learned that everything that I pick up in the basement, I have to shake first because you never know what may be there. Initially, there were some cobwebs on it, which I thought was really great. I don't need any of the kind of Halloween kind of white stuff that you spread around because look at that, I've got really effective natural cobwebs. But, you know, when I'm sitting in this cozy chair and I look up and I see spider webs right above me, it's a little bit creepy for me. A little too creepy. You know, especially when I don't see the spider in the web. I wonder where that buddy's gone. The positives of working in my basement. Well, it is my basement. I can do whatever the heck I want. I can do whatever I want when I want. Doesn't matter. What day is it? It's after midnight now, I think. So I can be noisy in my basement. You know, I think it used to bug my dad when I would be younger and I'd be like sitting at the dining room table with a sewing machine if he'd be trying to watch a show. Maybe he wouldn't say it, but it probably did bother him. So I have lots of space to spread out, which is really great. And I have kind of extended further and further and further into the basement. I put all my plastic bins over here. You've seen them. And I have spread out along that wall with my goofy cardboard and plastic kind of facades around here. Come on, we'll take a look. This was an awkward soffit up here. And that is kind of where I keep, there were already some industrial kind of commercial shelving here that I moved under there, and all the other kind of holiday storage, my Christmas stuff. No peeking. Okay, can't take it all the way over there. No peeking because there are Christmas presents over there already. Moved into the biggest footprint that I think I have down here, because that area is kept open for the gym side. I actually also wrote an article about using the Wii. I still actually use the Wii. Not gonna be honest, I haven't used it in a couple months. Supposed to be using the Wii. But again, here where we're talking about hobbies versus activities versus family, that whole kind of long side is where I expressly left space so that way we could have the Wii set up to really spread out and have fun and dance and exercise. But if I've got fabric laid out all over that floor, then I can't use the Wii either. So, and I've got all kinds of fancy equipment here, and then all the gym stuff and more electrical things on that side of the basement. So I'm never going to fill up my whole basement. That's just not practical for what we need for a basement. Basement has to have storage, basement has to have equipment. But, and I'm not going to invest something, but that's expensive. That's a big investment. And I'm not going to do that at this time. It's that, you know, I have to work around it, and that's fine because I can do what I need to do down here, that I have enough space and storage and access, and I really designed for everything down here to be kind of mobile or multi-purpose, where I could get additional use, or when things need to be changed up, they can be changed up, which is really great and really cost effective. So then I do have the little extras for when I do need craft supplies, when I do need to run to the dollar store or Goodwill or something to, you know, because sometimes I think if I'm rearranging or if I'm actually just decorating, it's more like it's delay. Yes, that's a project, but it's not a sewing project. I'm not actually getting done what I want to get done. But when you actually do sit down, I sit down on my exercise ball, remember, when you sit down and actually get a task done, it is actually a really great feeling and something that's really fun and exciting just to be creative. And, you know, obviously when you're sewing something that's like a multi-step kind of costume, again, not everything's going to happen in a day. So I have the opportunity to leave something laying out and lock the basement door when I don't want to be disturbed or when I'm not down here. So it's really great that I like the continued kind of creativity of where I can come down here every day and where I left off is already open and ready. That's an old writing adage too, where they'd say leave the document open or leave the last sentence unfinished, so that way when you sat down you immediately had to start and kind of continue, you know, no writer's block. I enjoy being in my space and I like sharing it with everybody else. Sometimes, again, when I get some like non-existent views on a video, it is kind of disheartening, and I think, well, then I will focus on the projects and not so much on the videos. But then I get excited about a project and it inspires me, and then I want to share it with everybody else. So you can read what I've written, some sewing on a budget tips at Search Magazine, and you can follow along on some of the playlists that I have on the YouTube channel on things that are expressly about Halloween projects and Halloween sewing, and other playlists that are just actually about other kind of sewing and thrift hauls. I've had a lot of fun sometimes making some thrift hauls. And thank you to those of you that have been watching. And now this means I need to kick my butt in gear and get some of those other giant sewing projects and sewing videos done so you can actually see what I've done. I have posted a few progress photos on Instagram. Instagram doesn't always cooperate with me. And I will put all of my project photos on the Kbatz Krafts albums on Facebook, which again is not ideal. I don't really find any one particular platform on social media to be ideal, but again, I like sharing things, and I hope that maybe when you can see something behind the scenes, kind of like we're doing today, or when you see something sort of deconstructed or in progress, that again, it's another small step to inspire and create and blossom. So thank you for watching. Bye.